I played 6 hours of Expedition 33, and before I say anything, I need to say that this game is beautiful as hell, and terrifying as hell, and beautiful as hell, and what the hell is that? Now, before I get into my spoiler-free review, I'd like to thank Sandfall Interactive for providing me with a preview code and accepting me into the creators program. Let's talk about combat. Now, if you've been looking into this game by now, I'm sure that you've heard that it's reinventing turn-based combat, and it's hands down the best example of active turn-based combat that I've ever seen in a video game. And while it's one thing to hear it, it's a whole other thing to play it. And there's a rhythm to this game that I honestly can't explain in words. I mean, I literally can't. I rewrote this part 7 times trying to come up with a metaphor or a simile to describe it, and every time it just comes down to, you have to have your hands on this thing to get it. Every parry is learned through trial and error. Every perfect dodge feels like you've studied to pull it off. You have to execute QTEs to make your special move stronger. I mean, you study these enemies, you learn their timing, and then you execute. And once that combat has you speaking its language, it's almost like you're playing a rhythm game, masquerading as turn-based combat, providing an addictive loop that actually had me seeking out enemies just to get my practice in.
I'm not a coward.
You swore the oath. When one falls, we continue.
Yes, I know.
When one falls. When one falls. Not if, when.
Let's talk about story. In Expedition 33, you play as members from, well, Expedition 33. These expeditions are sent out every year to a hostile land called the Continent to try to stop the Paintress from continuing her countdown. And every year, the Paintress paints a big-ass number on a tree, and anyone turning that age gets Thanos snapped out of existence. On the surface, it seems like a pretty cut-and-dry video game story. You've got stakes, motives, a hostile land with unknown dangers, but almost immediately after jumping into it, you'll realize that it's actually a lot darker than that. I'm being vague on purpose to try and avoid spoilers, but I'll just say I was not expecting the Game of Thrones level of unaliving going on in this game. Add to it a star-studded cast featuring Charlie Cox from Daredevil, Jennifer English and Deborah Wild from Baldur's Gate 3, Ben Starr from Final Fantasy 16, and Andy Serkis, like the Andy Serkis. And it's safe to say that from what I've seen in the preview at least, that if they stick the landing, this could be on fast track to Game of the Year. And honestly becoming one of those games that we look back on 10 years from now because every game is copying what this game is doing. Exploration. Exploration, while encouraged, didn't seem like too much of a challenge. Again, the preview is just a fraction of the game, so no telling how much it'll change over the course of the full game, but as it stands for now, it's a lot like God of War 2018. Fairly linear zones with the occasional branching path to follow to find some random loot. Sprinkle in a couple cliffs that are just out of reach, requiring a little bit of thought to traverse to, and while not bad, it's not really reinventing the wheel either. But what the environment lacks in challenge, it makes up for in scenery. Now, I know I covered it at the beginning of this video, but this game is incredible to look at. Systems. Sandfall's definitely been wearing their JRPG influences on their sleeve when marketing this game. And 3/4 of JRPG is the RPG part. And boy, do they got some RPGing going on in here. At its simplest, as you level up through your expedition, you'll upgrade your standard RPG stats, vitality, defense, luck, etc. You also have substantial skill trees for each character that allows you to spec them to fit your playstyle. Now that's just the basics. If you're a real geek like me, and let's be honest, if this video popped up in your algorithm, you definitely are, then you'll really like playing around with their Picto system. I'll keep it short and sweet here, but I'm also working on a separate video to explain the Picto system because it can get pretty in-depth. But at face value, think of it like a perk system. These perks have 2 sets of attributes. One set is for you and you only. The other set can be used by anyone else on your team, but only after you successfully won 4 battles while the perk is equipped. You can equip 3 of these Pictos, and if you want to use the attributes from another character's Pictos, you have to use this currency called Color Illumina. And in conclusion, this preview has already cemented Expedition 33 as a Game of the Year contender to me. It's up to them to stick the landing from here, but from what I've played, I have no doubt that they have the potential to do it. I'm excited for the full release and honestly to see if the game has that same Batman Arkham Asylum industry shifting moment. Make sure you follow me for more gaming news, reviews, and tips. I'm Watch Banks. Thanks.